In the middle of a busy European city, many of us dream of growing our own fresh vegetables right outside the kitchen window. Back in the 1940s, millions of families across the Atlantic did exactly that without any fancy equipment or bought inputs. They turned small patches of ground into productive spaces that supplied a huge share of the nation's greens. The methods they used relied on simple observations of nature and cost almost nothing at all. Today, those same approaches still work beautifully in our own backyards, allotments, and balcony containers across Europe. They help us build healthy soil year after year, instead of depending on external supplies that can become expensive or scarce. Let me walk you through 6 practical techniques that have stood the test of time and continue to deliver reliable harvests. These ideas come from watching how natural systems operate and adapting them gently to our urban realities. The first technique involves leaving plant material exactly where it grew at the end of the season. Rather than clearing everything away to a separate heap, you simply cut stems at soil level and let the tops fall. This creates a natural blanket that protects the ground from drying winds and heavy rain common in our climate. Earthworms and tiny creatures quickly get to work, breaking it down right in place. Over the following months, that layer turns into rich organic matter without any extra effort from you. In trials from the wartime years, plots managed this way needed far less watering because the covering held moisture like a sponge. You will notice fewer weeds pushing through, and the soil stays cooler during hot summer spells we sometimes get. It is a quiet way of recycling nutrients that would otherwise be lost if you hauled everything to the compost bin. Many gardeners in Britain and across the continent still use this approach on their vegetable beds with excellent results. It saves time and keeps the underground life active throughout the winter months when our gardens rest. Next spring, you simply push aside any remaining pieces and plant straight into the improved earth. The whole process feels like letting the garden look after itself for a while. The second method brings life from nearby woodland straight into your growing space. Find a quiet patch of undisturbed forest floor under mature trees and gently collect a small amount of the dark, crumbly material beneath the leaf litter. This living handful contains countless beneficial organisms that have evolved over centuries to turn organic matter into plant food. Mix it lightly into your beds or pots and watch how quickly the soil texture begins to change. Those microbes multiply fast once they settle in and start creating the networks that help roots absorb nutrients efficiently. You do not need much at all, because one small introduction can spread through the entire area within weeks. In older gardening records, families mentioned how their tomatoes grew stronger and produced more fruit after adding this natural boost. It works particularly well in city soils that have been compacted by building work or traffic pollution. The third approach draws on an ancient companion planting system known as the Three Sisters. You sow sweet corn first to create a natural support, then add climbing beans that fix nitrogen from the air into the ground. Finally, low-growing squash or courgettes spread across the surface to keep weeds down and retain soil moisture. The plants work together, so the whole bed becomes more productive than growing any one crop on its own. This guild uses roughly half the water compared with traditional rows and needs no additional feeding once established. The beans feed the corn, while the squash shades the roots of both, keeping everything cooler in our increasingly warm summers. Many allotment holders in Germany and France have adapted the idea using local varieties that suit our shorter seasons. It creates a beautiful living tapestry that also supports bees and other helpful insects visiting the flowers. The fourth technique turns ordinary compost into a liquid full of active biology that you can spray directly onto plants. Fill a cloth bag with well-rotted compost and suspend it in a bucket of collected rainwater for a day or two. Give the mixture an occasional stir, and then strain off the brownish liquid once it is brewed. This gentle tea coats leaves and encourages beneficial organisms to settle on the plant surfaces. It helps prevent common fungal problems without reaching for any chemical sprays that might affect garden wildlife. The same liquid watered around the base of plants wakes up the soil life and improves nutrient availability naturally. Gardeners who have used it for years report fewer disease issues even during damp autumns typical across Northern Europe. Best of all, you can make fresh batches whenever you need them, using materials you already have at home. The fifth secret keeps the soil covered and active even when your main crops have finished for the year. After harvesting summer vegetables, scatter seeds of quick-growing plants like crimson clover or winter rye across the bare patches. These cover crops protect the ground from erosion during heavy winter rains, and their roots improve soil structure deep down. Some of them draw nitrogen from the atmosphere and store it for the following season in a form plants can use. In spring, you simply cut the green growth and leave it as a mulch layer, following the first technique we discussed. This living blanket prevents nutrient leaching that often happens in uncovered European soils over the colder months. It also provides habitat for beneficial insects that overwinter and emerge ready to help with pest control next year. Many urban growers find this method transforms tired-looking plots into fertile spaces ready for early sowings. The final approach involves collecting and replanting seeds from the healthiest plants in your own garden each season. Choose the strongest specimens that have coped well with your local weather conditions and any pests you face. Allow a few fruits or seed heads to ripen fully, then dry them naturally in a shaded spot before storing in clean glass jars. Over time, these saved seeds become better adapted to the microclimate of your particular balcony or allotment. You end up with varieties that need less watering and show more resistance to the challenges of city growing. This practice builds a personal seed library that costs nothing after the first year and preserves diversity suited exactly to where you live. Communities in Italy and the Netherlands have kept family seed lines going for generations using similar careful selection. It gives a wonderful sense of continuity, knowing your plants carry forward the memory of your own soil and climate. Putting these 6 ideas together creates a gentle cycle that improves your growing space season after season. The soil becomes richer and more resilient rather than needing constant outside inputs that can be disrupted by supply issues. You will find yourself spending less money at garden centers and more time simply enjoying the process of tending plants. Many people notice their vegetables taste noticeably better when grown this way, with living soil beneath them. Start small if the whole list feels overwhelming. Pick just one technique, such as leaving plant material in place after harvest, and see how your beds respond over the coming months. The changes happen gradually, but they are steady and build on each other as the seasons turn. Before long, your small urban space can produce a surprising amount of fresh food for your household. These methods remind us that growing food does not have to rely on distant factories or expensive bags of amendments. They reconnect us with the quiet intelligence already present in the ground and in the plants themselves. Across Europe today, thousands of gardeners are quietly rediscovering these approaches in community plots and tiny courtyards. The results speak for themselves in healthy plants and satisfying harvests that feel truly homegrown. If you have been thinking about starting a small vegetable patch this year, why not try incorporating 1 or 2 of these ideas from the beginning? Even a few pots on a balcony can benefit from the same principles of covering soil and using companion plants. The knowledge has been around for a long time and continues to work wherever people give it a chance. Your garden will thank you, and so will the wider environment around it. Taking time to observe what happens in your own space is part of the pleasure of this way of gardening. Note down simple observations in a notebook so you can adjust slightly each year based on what you see. Over time, you develop an intuitive feel for what your particular spot needs, and the methods become second nature. It turns gardening into a calm, ongoing conversation with the land, rather than a list of tasks to complete. Many of us live in places where space is limited, but these techniques scale beautifully to whatever area you have available. They encourage biodiversity, which in turn supports pollinators and birds that make our cities more pleasant places to live. The soil you improve today will continue giving back for years, even if you move house and pass the knowledge on. There is a quiet satisfaction in knowing you are part of a longer tradition of resourceful growing. As the seasons change and your garden responds, you may find yourself sharing cuttings or saved seeds with neighbors. Small exchanges like that help spread practical skills that benefit everyone in the community. It creates connections that go beyond just producing food and make urban living feel a little more grounded. The methods themselves ask very little of us, yet return abundance in the most reliable way. Give yourself permission to experiment gently without expecting perfect results straight away. Nature works at her own pace, and each small success builds confidence for the next step. Before you know it, your balcony or backyard will be supplying fresh salads and herbs through much of the year. The whole experience becomes less about following strict rules and more about working alongside natural processes. These approaches also help reduce our collective reliance on systems that can be fragile during challenging times. By building soil health locally, we create a buffer that supports us regardless of what happens further afield. It is a practical form of resilience that feels empowering rather than overwhelming. Many families across Europe are quietly adopting similar habits and noticing the difference in their weekly shopping basket. The beauty lies in how these techniques fit into ordinary busy lives without demanding huge amounts of time. A few minutes here and there to cut back spent plants or scatter cover crop seeds is often all it takes. The garden does most of the work once you set up the right conditions at the start. That leaves more energy for enjoying the harvest and perhaps preserving some for the colder months ahead. Looking back, it is clear that simple observation and respect for living systems have always been at the heart of successful growing. Modern life sometimes makes us forget these basics, but they remain as effective today as they ever were. Trying them out in your own setting brings a sense of continuity with gardeners who came before us. Your efforts contribute to healthier soil and a more sustainable way of feeding ourselves right where we live. If you decide to try any of these ideas, I would love to hear how you get on in the comments below. Which one appeals to you most for your current space, whether it is a full allotment or just a windowsill? Sharing experiences helps all of us learn and adapt these methods to the varied climates across Europe. Thank you for watching and for taking steps towards growing more of your own food in a gentle, thoughtful way. The knowledge lives on through each person who chooses to remember and apply it in their own corner of the world. It waits patiently in the soil for anyone ready to give it a chance once again. One small garden at a time, we bring back what was always there, waiting to be rediscovered. Here is to healthier soil, happier plants, and more homegrown meals on our tables this coming season. In the heart of European cities, where concrete often dominates, many people still find ways to nurture small patches of green that produce real food. The old wartime gardens showed us that abundance can come from understanding soil as a living partner, rather than something to feed from a bag. These 6 gentle practices continue to help gardeners across Britain, Germany, France, and beyond grow more with far less external help. They turn ordinary spaces into resilient sources of fresh vegetables that taste better because they come straight from living earth. Start by considering how you finish each growing season, rather than rushing to tidy everything away. Instead of carting spent plants to a distant heap, cut them neatly at ground level and allow the stems and leaves to settle where they stand. This natural covering shields the soil from winter downpours that can wash away nutrients in our variable climate. Microscopic life beneath the surface gets busy turning that material back into goodness without any extra work on your part. You will soon notice the ground stays damper for longer, even during dry spells that seem more frequent these days. Weeds have a harder time finding light, and the earth itself develops a softer, crumbly feel over time. Gardeners in the Netherlands have reported needing far fewer watering sessions when they follow this simple habit year after year. It feels satisfying to step back and let the garden recycle its own resources quietly through the colder months. Bringing a touch of wild woodland into your plot offers another quiet boost that costs nothing but a short walk. Look for a peaceful spot under established trees, away from busy paths, and gently gather a small scoop of the rich, dark layer just below the leaves. This material teems with fungi and bacteria that have learned over centuries how to unlock nutrients plants actually need. Sprinkle it lightly through your beds, or mix into container compost, and let those helpers begin their work. Within weeks, the introduced life spreads and begins knitting the soil into a more open structure that holds air and moisture better. Tomato plants often respond with deeper roots and steadier growth, even in pots on windy balconies, common in many European towns. Older allotment records mention how such additions transformed tired city soils into productive spaces almost overnight. No shop can sell you this living connection, because it belongs to the land itself when left undisturbed. Companion planting in the spirit of the Three Sisters brings harmony to even the smallest vegetable bed. Sow tall sweet corn or sunflowers first to act as natural supports. Then follow with beans that climb and enrich the ground with nitrogen. Finish with sprawling squash or pumpkins that spread low and keep the soil shaded and cool underneath. Each plant solves challenges for its neighbors, creating a balanced system that needs very little extra attention. Such mixed beds often require half the water of single crop rows and produce more overall food from the same space. The underground connections between roots help share resources, so weaker plants receive support when they need it most. Allotment groups in Belgium and Italy have adapted the idea, using heritage varieties that suit our shorter summers perfectly. It turns a plain patch into a lively miniature ecosystem that also draws in helpful insects throughout the season. Brewing a simple liquid from your own compost multiplies the helpful organisms ready to protect your crops. Place some well-matured compost into an old cloth bag and let it steep in a bucket of rainwater for a couple of days. Stir now and then strain the resulting brew, which you can spray lightly over leaves or water around the base of plants. This coats surfaces and encourages good microbes to settle where diseases might otherwise take hold. Many gardeners across Scandinavia use this approach during damp periods, when fungal issues can appear quickly. It replaces the need for bought sprays and keeps the whole garden working as a balanced living system. The same liquid gently wakes up soil life after winter, giving everything a natural head start in spring. You make it fresh whenever required, using materials already waiting in your compost corner. Keeping soil covered, even when main crops rest, prevents the losses that happen when ground lies bare through winter. Scatter seeds of clover, rye, or vetch across harvested beds, so green growth continues protecting and improving the earth below. These plants draw nitrogen from the air and send roots deep to break up any compaction caused by foot traffic or rain. Come spring, simply cut the tops and leave them as a fresh layer that feeds the soil as it breaks down. This habit stops nutrients washing away during heavy European rains and provides shelter for insects that help control pests later. Urban growers in Poland and Spain find their plots wake up faster and need less preparation before new sowings. The cover crops cost little and repay the effort many times over by building fertility while you focus elsewhere. It keeps the garden alive and working gently through every season of the year. Saving and replanting seeds from your strongest performers creates plants that truly belong in your local conditions. Mark the healthiest vegetables each year and allow a few to ripen fully before collecting and drying the seeds carefully. Store them in simple glass jars in a cool, dry place, ready for the next cycle of sowing. Over several seasons, these lines adapt to your exact microclimate, including any late frosts or dry periods you face. You end up with varieties that need less watering and show natural resistance to the pests common in your area. Communities in Portugal and the UK have maintained family seed collections this way for generations, with wonderful results. It frees you from yearly catalog orders and builds a personal reserve that improves with each harvest. The process feels like passing on a living inheritance tailored exactly to where you grow. Together, these 6 approaches form a gentle cycle that strengthens soil rather than taking from it season after season. Your garden becomes more self-reliant and productive even when external supplies run short or prices rise. Many people notice their vegetables carry richer flavors because they grow in earth, alive with natural processes. The methods fit neatly into busy lives, requiring only small, thoughtful actions spread across the year. Begin with whichever idea feels easiest in your current space, whether a full allotment or a few balcony containers. Observe quietly what happens and adjust slightly each season based on the weather and results you see. Before long, the practices blend together into a natural rhythm that feels part of everyday life. Your small efforts add up to meaningful harvests that feed both body and a deeper sense of connection. These ways of growing also support wider biodiversity, making our cities greener and more welcoming for wildlife. Birds and beneficial insects find more reasons to visit when soil stays healthy and plants grow in mixed company. It contributes quietly to a more sustainable way of living that many Europeans are rediscovering with quiet satisfaction. The knowledge has waited patiently and now finds new homes in gardens large and small. Taking time to try even one technique can shift how you see the potential in any patch of ground. The changes build steadily and often surprise you with how much food appears from modest beginnings. Share what you learn with friends or neighbors and watch the ideas spread through simple conversations. Gardening this way becomes less about rules and more about gentle partnership with the living world around us. As seasons turn and your soil improves, you may find yourself preserving extra produce or swapping seeds with others nearby. These small habits create resilience and community in places where space feels limited at first glance. The rewards come in fresh meals on the table and the calm pleasure of tending something that truly thrives. It reminds us that real abundance often grows from remembering simple truths about soil and plants. Give yourself space to learn gradually, without pressure for instant perfection in every bed. Nature works in her own time, and each small success encourages the next gentle step forward. Your garden will respond in ways that feel rewarding and deeply practical at the same time. Here is to quieter, more productive growing that fits beautifully into European urban life. The soil holds these secrets ready for anyone willing to listen and work alongside it once again. One thoughtful action at a time, we rebuild fertility and independence right where we live. Many are already doing so across the continent, turning balconies and backyards into sources of real nourishment. The cycle continues quietly, bringing fresh food and deeper satisfaction with every passing season.